For centuries, terrible epidemics and diseases held entire nations hostage, intimidating and gradually destroying helpless people, getting into every house and terrifying the inhabitants of every village, city and town. Now, many of these diseases are virtually unknown in developed countries. Yellow fever, diphtheria, smallpox, rabies, cholera, typhus and typhoid fever, poliomyelitis, measles. Each of these diseases killed and maimed more people than world wars. But few people know how the history of the victory of mankind over these terrible pestilences began. In Bogota, in memory of the great victory over death, there is a huge monument erected in honor of young children. These are 22 boys from 3 to 9 years old who delivered the precious smallpox vaccine to another part of the world on their pure children's bodies. History textbooks contain events about wars that claim human lives, but nothing is said about children who saved hundreds of thousands of human lives. They were the first missionaries to carry life to the ends of the earth with their small bodies. This expedition symbolizes a great advance in medicine, the ability to use the protective properties of one person's blood to save another. In 1802, terrible news came from Colombia to Spain about the threat of a smallpox epidemic. A royal expedition was equipped, consisting of human cargo. 22 orphan boys from 3 to 9 years old had to deliver the priceless smallpox vaccine to distant islands with their bodies. Before shipment, the doctor inoculated a weak form of the virus on 2 children. On the 10th day of swimming, the sore on the hands of 2 babies became visible, and lymph began to flow from the bubbles. The doctor carefully scraped off the precious liquid and inoculated it into the 2 new boys. So every 10 days he inoculated smallpox to 2 new children in order to preserve the life-saving vaccine that was stored in the bodies and blood of the babies throughout the voyage. When the ship arrived in Venezuela, a live vaccine remained on the last boy's arm. His blood was the only hope for stopping the deadly epidemic. 12,000 people were rescued and another 28 volunteer boys became an extension of the living chain in order to deliver the vaccine further with their bodies. The expedition split up. The ship that sailed to Bogota was wrecked. But by the grace of God, the carriers of the precious blood survived, and all the inhabitants of Bogota received lymph with antibodies, and the threat of death receded. Then they sailed to Peru and Argentina. Another part of the expedition was to Mexico and the Philippines. The inhabitants of these islands survived thanks to the continuous human chain of sacrificial children who delivered them the vaccine in their bodies. Hundreds of thousands of people were saved thanks to those first 22 orphans. Today there is a monument in Bogota erected in honor of their sacrifice. It was the first dangerous expedition that crossed half of the world and demonstrated how the protective properties of one person's blood can save another. For 20 years, missionary doctors have reached every source of infection on the planet and stopped the spread of smallpox. It was the largest human life-saving campaign in the history of mankind, originating from an orphanage in a Spanish town. No one will forget the first children of orphans who became carriers of the victor's blood. Like these children, we must remain pure and holy children of God in order to save the world with the gospel of Christ from the epidemic of sin, curse and hell. Just as Christ said, "Be like children." For the mission of saving from smallpox, the most pure and innocent children were chosen because many adults were sick with venereal diseases and could not share pure blood with the world, but would only transmit diseases and infection. Like this example, only God's children washed with the pure and holy blood of Jesus can save the world with the gospel of Christ.